Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Robbie Samuels. It is my pleasure to be emceeing the launch party for Katie Chambers. I am so glad you're here, whether you're here with us in the moment or you're watching it. Thrilled that you're here because this has been a tremendous amount of effort. So much so that Katie has lost almost all of her voice. So, as you're listening in, you will notice that the microphone is doing its best, and Katie is trying to preserve her voice. She has stayed quiet the last few days, which I don't know how you do that in preparation for a lunch party or any day of the week, honestly. But she didn't just write one book, she wrote two books and released them at the exact same time. I have not yet worked with an author who has done that successfully. And today we're really excited to celebrate the success of these books. So, quick housekeeping before we get started. We're going to be on for about an hour or so. There'll be time for Q&A at the end of this. If you do have any questions throughout the program, please write the word question in all caps, followed by your question in the chat. I'll keep track of those questions and we'll address them to Katie at the end. And if she can't do any more whisper talking, she'll get back to you via email. We're going to be doing an interview with her. We're going to have three guest speakers sharing about the way she offers value into the world. There's going to be a prize wheel for those of you who registered for this event, so you'll all get to maybe walk away with a gift, and we'll have a lot of other fun surprises along the way. Without any further delay or ado, I would love to invite Katie to the stage to share with us how things have been going. Welcome, Katie.
So I'm never mute. I talk a lot. My husband was like, "This is awesome that you lost your voice because now I have a silent 12-hour drive home." So, from Arizona. But anyway, um, guys, I truly appreciate all of you. Um, I couldn't have done this. I like the amount of support was just overwhelming. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, Now I gotta go look at my notes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're about to tell them that you had two different launch teams. I'll just say this for you. Again, ran two separate launches. So incredible. You had 90 people sign up for nonfiction and 73 for your fiction team. Well done.
I was impressed. And then, you know, I know that like not everyone that signs up will follow through, and that's totally normal. Like life happens. And I read online that it's normal to maybe get like 20%, but I got nearly 50% of people participating, so I really appreciate it. Um, of the 90 people who signed up for nonfiction, 47 submitted reviews. And of the 73 that signed up for fiction, 35 submitted reviews, so it was a pretty good turnout. Some of them are still waiting to be populated on Amazon because Amazon is lame sauce and made my anxiety go through the roof because I'm type A and track everything. And people would be like, "I posted." And I'm like, "But I don't see it." And so I didn't know how to like track who do I remind, who was really posted, who was going to get a reminder that's going to be like, "I posted, leave me alone." so, so that's kind of what happened there. But during the soft launch, I sold 65 copies of the nonfiction and 60 of the fiction, which means either people who did not submit a review from my launch team went in and purchased, or I got outside sales, which I was not expecting to get during the soft launch because I wasn't announcing it to the world or anything. And what really sucked about my soft launch, or what didn't suck, but just was a little unfortunate, two self editing books were launched at the same time as mine. Like, self editing is a topic that hasn't been written about a lot. I had like hardly any competition. And then I got on and I was like, "What?" Just as I launched mine, I saw a brand new release. I was like, "This is totally not fair." Because, it's one thing if they were published a year or so ago and mine's like the new shiny thing, but now mine's not only the new shiny thing. So it was interesting to see that competition show up at the last hour. But I made I made the decision to not care about the bestseller batch. And I want to say to authors out there that really is not that. It doesn't matter that for like 24 hours, more people were buying your book than other people's books. Because that happens when you have a soft launch and you go, hey, everyone buy my book on this day. And if I did that, I would have gotten number one. But I didn't want to because I wanted to show a consistent interest in the book. So I spaced out my reviews and I didn't even try. But I did actually get number two in several categories for both of my books. I don't really care a whole lot, but it was kind of fun to see. And I was in the top five in three categories for two of my books at one point. But again, it was like, this is just because I have launch team members that are like obligated to buy my book. So sure, I could make them all buy it on the first day and then I could be number one and be like, oh, cool, I was number one for 24 hours. But I didn't really care about that. So I care more about the long term sustainability. And a bestseller to me is really a book that has that long term. And because my launch team was so supportive and so there, I feel like I have a really good chance now. And I have an excellent book marketer. Erin's here, who I watched her webinar and I took a bunch of notes. And I'm actually going to start today. I should have started earlier, but with the funeral and everything, I couldn't really. So I feel like I'm going to, I have a good start, good strong start.
An excellent start. I mean, most people, as you just said, focus on hitting number one bestseller in a category, and then they get super excited and they call themselves a best-selling author, but they haven't focused on the reviews, and the book plummets to number 2000 in the category, and then keeps going way, 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 way down. So if you want your book to show up on the search results page, which right before we got on, one of our guest speakers searched the term self-editing in Amazon, and your book showed up right after the sponsored book. So the reason that's happening is because of these reviews that have been coming in, and ongoing reviews matter. So I'm going to mention this again later, but if you haven't yet written a review, it's not too late. And in fact, ongoing reviews really do help. So you can almost say to yourself, well, maybe I'm actually helping Katie by not getting it done by yesterday. Make yourself feel better and then go post the review. So before we dive more into that, I want to ask you a few questions, if I might, while your voice is still available. And we definitely can hear you, and I'll tell you if that's not true. I mean, you've been working as an editor now for quite a while. It's the way you and I connected. And as you said, like there haven't been a lot of self-editing guides out there. So what set you up for this being the moment that you thought, okay, I need to really work on this book. People really need this book. So yeah, what was sort of in your mind when that was happening?
So I've known for a while that I wanted to create a guide that was just going to be on my website, like a download for like, $6 or whatever on my website, a PDF guide, because I I get a lot of books that come to me and after I give them feedback, they implement it so well. And I'm like, oh, if only they had the money and the time to do a second round and a third round and a fourth round, because there's so many other things that we could tackle with the book. But I don't want to throw everything at them in the first round. So I can only do what I can do in the time and budget allotted. So I'm like, oh, if they just came to me with like a stronger manuscript, I could take it even further in that time and budget allotted. And I don't think, they're not really taught how to self edit. It's not really, the writing craft is taught, but writing craft and actually self editing are not the same, though they're connected. You have to understand craft to be able to edit, but there's a different mindset, a different way of approaching it. So I knew for a while I wanted to do these. Teacher at heart, so I have tons of resources on my website. And I'm like, I've got tons of resources for editors. I don't have enough for authors. I need to start getting going on this. So I started doing it. And then my beta team for my nonfiction one were like, why don't you publish these as actual books? Like, make it longer, extend it. You have more to say. And I was like, uh-oh, that is like a lot of money. And I don't spend money, especially without I'm not going to make that back in book sales. There's other ROIs though, but my thought was like, oh, that's a lot of money and oh, that's a lot of commitment. But I'm like, I encourage my authors to do that and going to be this big of a hypocrite. So we plowed forward. And, as the teacher in heart in me, I actually teach my authors more than just the editing. I help them with the stages that come after. But now I can help them even more because I've done it. And there's so much more that comes from doing it. Um, but yeah, I know how important they are to really learn how to self-edit well because their books can be so much better. Their money that they spend with me can go so much farther if they knew how to do that first. And it's just not really talked about a whole lot in author circles. They talk about beta readers and critique feedback, but not really like how you can self-edit it.
There's a certain amount of empathy that you now have for your authors that you thought you had before you went through this process yourself. So I think it makes you a better service provider and supporter of these authors and creators and artists. And I 100% agree. And I'm so glad these books exist because I specifically work with nonfiction authors and they're, mostly focused on their how and they're writing it all out. And it's just like they often are missing like a story or a frame of reference or a narrative. And I'm guilty of this. And I know that I had one book, I did a ton of self-editing, and my editor gave me much better feedback. And I work with the same editor for a book we were rushing. And so I didn't do the self-editing rounds. And she gave me a lot of like fix these commas. It's like, where is the substantive conversation? We didn't really have it because she was just fixing the baseline stuff. And so, like you said, she couldn't throw it all at me. She couldn't have, would have required multiple rounds. So speaking of that, like, is this book or these books more for people who are further along and experienced, like who have maybe written a book already, or for someone who's just getting started and realize they would get more value out of working with an editor if they do their own self-editing? Or is it kind of a combination? Who serve best and who struggles the most when it gets to these revision stages? Like, is it, based on genre? Is it based on experience? Is it based on topic? Like, how do we think about that?
Honestly, um, I think even experienced authors can benefit because the way I structured my books are like a choose your own adventure. So, like, don't read about the topics you're strong on. I don't know any editor or any author who is strong in everything. Like, I had a New York Times best-selling author come to me and say, I struggle with character interiority. And he wanted me to focus specifically on that when I edited his book. And this guy has written nearly 100 books and he's been on bestseller lists, but he knew that, I'm not good at everything. And after I edited his book and we focused specifically on that topic, he's like, okay, now I feel like I can do more self-editing on that topic and get it in a better place because he'd already had his book edited before he came to me. I was specifically hired just to edit for that because he knew it needed more in that area. So because it's a choose your own adventure book, I think even experienced authors can be like, okay, let me read more about a topic that I kind of get a lot of feedback from my editor on. And so I want to strengthen that topic. New authors might be a little overwhelmed, and I tried so hard throughout my books to be like, let's go slow, rah, rah, rah. Like I tried to be a lot of rah, 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 encouraging. Like, hey, you've got this, you can do this, because it might be intimidating for them to read the long list of things to edit for. But that's why I specifically say, pick two. Pick two in this pass. Pick two in this pass. Like, let's go slow. And even if they're overwhelmed by all four passes, I tell them only focus on these two then. These are the most bang for your buck. Like, we don't want to be overwhelmed here, but there's so much that you can learn about. So, experienced authors, pick what you need. New authors, combat that feeling of overwhelm by going, look, I'm going to start slowly, like Katie says, and I'm just going to go with this topic. And I'm going to learn that. And then maybe years later, come back to the book and learn something else. Like, this is a lifelong learning thing. It is not a one and done. So you can come back to the book as a reference book at any time. But everyone needs to edit, no matter how experienced you are. My books could still be better. I I could still edit my books even further. Book writing can always be made better and you can always learn more. So I think it's a very important topic. And I have no doubt that experienced authors do good self editing. But maybe they're missing one piece. Maybe they can learn one thing. There's always a learning, things to learn. And while my target audience is authors who are ready for the self editing stage, like they've already written their book, I've heard from many people that, you know what, even if they haven't written their book yet, they could read it before having written it and read it kind of like a craft book. Then after they write it, then they read it as a self-editing book. So it's like, oh, that's good. Like they can learn some craft principles ahead of time. It's also good for editors because I read Self-Editing for Fiction Writers by Brene Brown and David King, and this was one of my favorite professional development as a fiction editor. Like, because, you know, as authors are learning to self-edit, editors also learn to edit better. And there were some topics I wrote about that I wasn't very good at editing for, and I had to learn a lot about it. And to be able to write about it. And so now I'm a better editor. Like I just finished editing a manuscript and I started talking about entry and exit scenes and microtension and things I'd never given feedback on before. But I'd written this book and so now I knew how to. So it'll help editors too, I think, learn how to be a better editor.
That piece you just said about learning more deeply the topic as you write a book is an unintended consequence of writing a book. And it's a wonderful consequence. It's a wonderful outcome. It's never the one we go into the book process for. But I love that you got that experience because I'm sure that's also true for the authors that you work with. I remember like, I've written books on multiple different topics. One of them was about networking, and there was this like stat that was thrown around on the internet about networking and who gets a job through a friend. And it was like I kept finding it. I couldn't find the source. It was someone's LinkedIn article, and I don't mean like someone at a big company. I mean like Joe Smith wrote a LinkedIn article and said this was based on like the 8 people he had talked to. He created a stat, but like everybody was using it, and it forced me to dig deep and like look for the origin. So I think there's so many moments like that. Um, when we're at that revision stage, though, I wanted to ask you, you know, who who's the person that does this well, and what are all the steps we're doing wrong? I mean, I just think like God, I tell my authors sometimes, you're done when you're sick of this book. Like you've read it out loud 17 times. Speechify read it out loud to you 10 more times. You've read it backwards looking for typos. You've read it forwards. You've read it every other word. You've read, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, I'm done. I'm done. But actually, you're not. you're just, you just need I mean, the structure that you're providing, even, I love how you're like, go easy on yourself. Pick 2 things, focus on these passes. Like I love that. But what are people usually doing wrong when it comes to the revision stage and like making it harder for themselves?
So, as a former English teacher, I can attest that, and as a, going through English classes myself, we were never really taught how to self edit. We were taught the writing process, and editing was a part of that process. But like, we would read and maybe fix a few errors and change a word or two and be like, I'm good. But when I taught English, I actually graded my students on their editing. Like it was not just like a stage in the process, it was actually a part of their grade on their essay because I taught them how to really edit. Because I don't think they'd ever been taught that before. It was like news to them that, like, oh, I could actually change more than just like fix a comma, change a word. Um, and many famous authors have said something to the effect of good writing is rewriting. You know, um, I just think what makes it so hard is it's harder to see your own mistakes. When I say mistakes, I'm not just talking about grammar and punctuation. I'm talking about you can't see your own plot holes because you know the plot. You can't see when a character acted out of inconsistency because you understand the end goal. And then when it comes to nonfiction, you know your content well. You think it's clear. You think that going from this topic to this topic made sense without a transition. You don't realize that the reader's like, huh? How do these connect? Because they connect in your brain. So it's harder to see. So if you're not systematic about it, I think that's what helps is you go, okay, I'm looking specifically for this, and I'm looking at it from a reader perspective. It helps you find more. You still won't see everything, which is why you'll still need the professional editor because you are blind to your own things. But you can train your brain to see more when you're going systematic. When you're going, right now, I'm focusing on plot holes only. And I'm focusing on what didn't make it on the page but is in my brain. And now you can see them more easily. It's like in life, you know, as human beings, we tend to remember the negative because we focus on it. Whatever you focus on, whatever your attention is on, that's what you notice. Like, I never saw a certain car until we bought that car. Now they're everywhere. So that's, I think, what's helpful about really, truly learning how to self edit is training your brain to focus on those one or two things at a time. And I think that's what was missing from a lot of self editing. It was like, here's all the things you can edit for, but not, okay, now let's narrow in. So I think that's what makes revision harder for authors. They're just, okay, I have to make it better now. And they go through and they read it and they read it and they read it. And they fix a few things, but they're missing a lot of things because they're not focused on those things. They're not being told, focus on this task. Now focus on this task.
This also answers the question why Grammarly or AI tools alone can't be your self-editing mechanism because it's they're not taking the reader's perspective, they're not zeroing in on these different pieces. I love the breakdown. Like, could you share a little bit about this unique approach? Like, as you've mentioned, there are other books, even books you really like, and other books that have just come out about self-editing for fiction and for nonfiction. But there's a difference in how you're approaching this. So, share a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so like I shared, I've read this book. I haven't seen any self-editing for nonfiction out there. So I think that one is kind of a new idea because I think a lot of the nonfiction authors aren't writers. They're not looking to be a writer. They're not trying to improve their writing craft. So maybe my nonfiction self-editing will be more for ghostwriters who are trying to improve their craft. But fiction authors are trying to improve their crafts. There's plenty out there. But I think the difference is they focus on craft and not so much on focusing on editing, even if they're on self-editing. This book is on self-editing, and I learned so much, but I didn't learn how to self-edit, if that makes sense. I learned these are the topics to look for. This is some before and after, but I didn't get a systematic process. So I still, as an author, might go, okay, this is all good, great information, but how do I apply it? This is a lot. Do I edit for all of these things at once? Do I focus here? Do I focus there? And the other thing is, this book just covered the top topics, the main topics. I tried to cover absolutely every topic because it's a choose your own adventure. It would be so overwhelming if it wasn't a choose your own adventure, but this book isn't a choose your own adventure, so they went with the top wins, which is good. But if you already know the top wins, what are the other things? So that's why I tried to be like, I'm going to talk about nearly every topic, and then you choose the ones you need. But not only do you choose the ones you need, I'm going to tell you in what order and in what process to do it in. So we're going to start with the story paths for fiction or the content paths for nonfiction. And your mind is going to ignore everything else. And you're going to pick two topics. And you're going to just do only those two topics for content or only those two topics for story. Ignore everything else. Because it can be overwhelming. So I think that's why and I'm not saying the other books aren't great, they are. But the teacher in me, being a former teacher, I think gave me a little advantage to understanding how people actually learn. Um, and they need a system. They need to be taught how. Not just not just this is what you could do, but how do you do it? And I think that's what was missing was the how. Okay, this is what I could self-edit for, but then how do I actually self-edit? So that's what I tried to make sure my book was very much systematic process. How it was a lot of like, pause here, ask these questions, reflect on them. Now, with those questions in mind, edit this. So it was very slow, systematic process, which I think was what was missing because we're not taught that. And some people do it intuitively and naturally, and they're fine, but not everyone does.
I think you've kind of answered the next couple of questions that you and I had prepared. So I'm going to jump ahead and combine the last two questions together in the interest of time. And I want to get to our guest speakers. But I also know that anyone who wants to dig deeper into this knows how to reach you. And when you're back to having a voice, you'd be happy to get on a call because I mean, when you and I met, I think one of the first things you told me was, I'm a teacher. I teach people things. I like to educate people about what's going on. Um, my question is about you writing, self-editing, and launching this book. As a person who has so much experience in the world of publishing, what was it like to write your own book? What was it like to self-edit your book? And what was your experience with the launch process since this time you were responsible for the launch process?
Nice. Yes, my notes are like escaping me, so give me just 1 second here. Um, okay. Uh, oh, okay. All right. Um, since I live in the editing world, editing was actually easier for me than writing. I think it's the opposite for most authors. From what I've heard, they enjoyed the writing process more than they enjoyed the editing process. Um, I was surprised by how much feedback. I don't. It was criticism, but it was criticism that was applicable that I got from my beta readers. And for a minute, there was that ego sting, but I literally only allowed it to sit for like 2 seconds, and then I dove right in, and I had no problem. And I think for some authors, that might be a harder thing. But because I live in the editing world and I'm excited and I know that how much editing can improve your book and how much you don't know what you don't know and how much you can't see it from the reader's perspective, it wasn't really so much like you don't know what you're talking about. This is my baby. I was like, no, you're awesome. Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to go fix it now. And I was really excited. I was really excited that I had amazing beta readers that gave me such amazing feedback. I was surprised about how much self-editing I still had to do. I was like, I probably won't have that much. Oh no, I had a lot. My books changed a lot. And I think because I already had that mindset of editing is important, it helped me to really dig in. And I did. Oh, I dug in. And I spent hours editing and applying my beta reader feedback. And then my launch team members, because so many of them are also editors and authors, they were giving me feedback too on how to improve the book. And I was like, wait a second, it's already with my designer. Um, but I was like, no, I really like this feedback. So I was like, my poor designer, she probably hated me because I was constantly going back to be like, can I still change this? Can I still change this? Can I still change this? And then, as my launch team knows, I published my books and they weren't the finalized version. They still weren't the finalized version. And you think I would know better. Like I tell my authors, your arbitrary publication date is not nearly as important as a good product. Don't rush it. And then what did I do? I rushed it because I thought, oh, I know how long things take, and I'm an editor. I can do things quicker. No. So I had to publish not a finalized version of my book. And then people outside of my launch team, I think, bought it. And I was like, oh crap. The proofreading's not totally done. The editing was done, but the design was done, but the proofreading wasn't done. So the books were even made better, and now the finalized versions have gone out. So I have learned the importance of following my own advice and giving yourself more time than you think you need and not caring about, I really want, like, my whole momentum was like, November is a big writing month. So come February, they might be ready for my editing books. So I want them out in February. But you know what? It wouldn't have killed me to have them go out in March. And that's really what I should have done. So I learned the importance of taking my own advice. And I'm glad I was good at the whole ego doesn't matter here thing. Like, I was very good at that. Like, I did not, like, people could have said the harshest thing about my book. And I was like, yes, thank you so much. Let me make it better. Like, and I'm glad that that was my mindset. I'm very glad that was my mindset. And so I think um, that's the number one thing authors can work on. It's the mindset of like, they're not saying your book is bad. They're not. They're telling you what will make it better. And you're sure if it doesn't resonate with you, if it's like, yeah, you really didn't get what I was going for there, then sure, ignore it. I'm not saying like everybody's feedback is gold, but I knew my people's feedback was gold because they were editors and authors and they were going to tell me like it was, you know? And if, there was only a few ones that I was like, I see what they're saying here, but it's against what I want to do. So I didn't do it, but I implemented everything else because my main, I'm here to serve the reader, not me. So if your feedback's gonna help the reader, let's do it. Let's dive in and do that. And I was up like till the wee hours of the night because I was working on such a tight time frame. And I had so much feedback. And I was like, I have a lot to implement in a short amount of time. So I was up late into the night, but I don't regret it because my books are better for it.
That's awesome. I'm going to give you a chance to rest your voice for a little bit while we hear from some guests, but I just want to shout out Linda for sharing in the chat. Take my advice. I'm not using it. It's a great quote, Linda. Yes, to making sure you have enough time for doing a really good editing phase, and that's something most writers, first-time writers, do not estimate that time well. And that's why working with a team of people who can guide you on the timeline is helpful. But if you're self-publishing, it's something you just, yeah, lessons. Chloe says it's like you're repeating all the lessons I learned from publishing my book right back at me. That's amazing. So, I am now going to have the privilege of introducing the first of your three guests. We're going to have Kat Russell joining us in just a moment. And Kat's been a big supporter of Katie's throughout the launch. She's an accomplished author whose work Katie had the privilege of editing. She's written 3 picture books and an impressive 5 book middle grade series that's won a few awards and was picked up by a marketing team who really saw the potential. Each book in the series is based on a biblical proverb. And today, Kat is going to be sharing her experience working with Kate as an editor. And Kat, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. That is a very gracious introductory. I only have a few moments, so of course, I absolutely endorse Katie's self-editing essentials for fiction. But I don't want to focus on that because I want to focus on Katie and mine relationship over this journey with her editing my middle grade series books. Uh, I wrote in my notes, I think everyone can agree what I wrote down while she was speaking is what I picked up from just what Katie was talking about is approachable passion and technical expertise. That is, I think, the quintessential Katie Chambers that I know. She has absolutely shaped me as an author, and she is indispensable. I have worked with Katie since 2019 on this middle grade series. And over this 6 or so year period, I came out with the 5th and final book of this series. And so with that, Katie has gone the extra mile where when you're writing a series book, a series, you can focus individually on these books, but then she and I went back and overhauled every single one of them meticulously to make sure that they were completely the same throughout in verbiage, in wording, in character development, and arc, and everything. So here is my synopsis of Katie. I want to let you know that she is prompt and professional in everything that she does. If she tells you she's going to have this time frame, that is the time frame that you will get. She is also absolutely reasonable in her pricing for the expertise that you receive. She is also, as you can tell, she is the quintessential teacher. She is a life coach. So it's not just separate editing. She is passionate for your story and to lift your story to the next level. And I had no idea just the depth of expertise that Katie brings to the table until I started to look at her self-editing essentials fiction book. And so what she does with her experience, she coaches you and she will show you how to make it better. And instead of just straight out editing, this is how it's done, she really prompts you to grow. Try several times to focus on one particular passage and try to make it the very best you can, and then she shows you how it's done. So she is definitely a quintessential teacher. And I also think that she brings this expertise to the table where she will lift your book, but she will not take your voice from you. And that is very, very unique in who I think Katie Chambers is, because I think you can find really good editors, but you are not going to find an editor that makes your book, your voice that much better in your style. She leaves that alone. And of course, she's always going to give you the authority and control over your own work so that you get the final say. And so I highly recommend Katie as an editor. I highly endorse her book as a resource. And I'm almost excited just to write a book to see how much more I can improve, Katie, before I bring it to you after going through your workbook. And I highly recommend her. If you are ever considering a series, I hope that you consider her to start and finish, because to have her through the entire series will lift the entire series to the best that it can be in the same voice, in the whole comprehensive entire picture. So let me see. 5 minutes. Sorry, I went a little over time.
You're good. You're good, Kat. I want to underscore one thing you said because I saw Angie and Linda nodding along. The idea of her uplifting the author's voice and not taking it over.
Oh,
So I'm seeing I'm seeing more people nodding. Yes, how
yes.
key that is, and how it's hard to know if you don't have this kind of referral. How do you know that the editor that you want to work with is going to have that kind of support? So thank you so much for bringing that specifically to the forefront, and every other kind thing you said. Katie's taking it all in. Now I'm going to invite Tim Jacobs to the stage. Tim wrote the most quotable review for the nonfiction version of Katie's book, calling it the new elements of style. He is a ghostwriter, author, coach, and CEO of JWC Publishing, a full service publishing company that guides authors through every step of bringing their books to life. A few months ago, Tim made the decision to bring Katie and her team on board to handle all editorial needs for his clients. Today, Tim's going to share his experience working with Katie as an editor and what gave him the confidence to entrust her with leading his editorial department. Welcome to the stage, Tim.
Yes, thank you. Um, wow, where to even start, you know? Um, for me, it's just real quick, it would be four things that really pop to my mind. One is I got a book from a good friend of mine who's actually on this call. His name's Jordan Ring. He wrote Nonfiction Alchemy, and I'm reading that book. And I mean, I've known Jordan for a long time. I know his work, and it just dawned on me to be like, who was his team, especially who was the editor. And I go to like the copyright page, and there it says it was Katie Chambers. So then, second, I start to connected with Katie on LinkedIn at the time, but now I'm starting to pay attention to her. And one of the things I would say I adore about Katie is she shows up literally just as she is. She doesn't try to do what the gurus say. She doesn't have a certain kind of plan in place. She's just like, this is me. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I do. And it's absolutely just amazing, and it's a joy to watch. As I got closer to being like, I just kind of want to get some things off my plate, and if I can hand my editorial work to someone else and have that peace of mind, that would be a wonder for me and a time saver for me. And one thing that Katie did that really, really stuck out to me was both myself and her, and probably maybe even others on this call, were with the Editorial Freelancers Association, the EFA. And they have this discussion group where people talk about scams, or you could get advice or business, all conversations. And it was simple. They send you an email, you click on the discussion you want to jump in, and you're done. You could comment, you could just read the comments, you could join the discussion. And then that organization changed how all that's done. And everybody complained about it. They hated it. They didn't like it. They didn't know what to do or how to do it. And then here comes Katie. She figures it out, she learns it, and then she teaches it. She made a video showing everyone whatever discussion you want to follow. This is how you set it up. This is how it comes to your inbox. This is how you can keep up with those discussions. And I thought, wow, I don't know if this is a word or not, but she's a solutionist. I mean, she just figured it out, and then she starts teaching it. And to me, I was just like, why would I not want her to be on my team? And the other thing too is when I started out, before I became like a full publishing house, it was just me and five editors. We did editing and proofreading, and we worked with other publishers and authors. And so in a way, I mean, Katie totally reminds me of where I started from. And it's really just a genuine peace of mind to know when a project for us is either ghost written or the author comes in and has written the book themselves. I just say, hey, Katie, here's the next project, here's the scope. And it's just an amazing feeling to know I'm not worried about that part of the project anymore. And then when Katie's done, it comes back into us, and then we bring it to the finish line. And she also cheers our authors when their books are launched and everything. She'll make a comment in a post, or put up their book cover, and she's excited to shout that she was the editor for it, and she deserves that.
I think the fact that you liked a book and decided to look for the editor of that book was such a smart. I've never heard of anyone doing this. That's the thing I'm hearing there, Tim. That was such a smart way to pay attention to good quality work, and then to follow that person on LinkedIn and build a relationship over time. And look, now this is one piece of your business is being taken care of by Katie and her team. What a cool story about how to build out your own impact. Let's now give a chance to bring Jordan up to the stage. Jordan Ring is a talented ghostwriter and author Katie connected with on LinkedIn. His posts are consistently outstanding, packed with practical advice and valuable insights for writers, and also quite funny and entertaining. He's also an incredible source of encouragement, I should say, for Katie, lifting her up when she struggled with confidence or felt overwhelmed by the challenges of marketing. If you're thinking of writing a nonfiction book, you should check out his book, Nonfiction Alchemy, which will help you with the whole process. He's also wrote Volcanic Momentum, which will totally pump you up. Today, Jordan will share his journey with his search for an editor he could trust as much as his favorite editor, and why he felt confident in her work on his book. Here we go. Bring you to the stage. Welcome, Jordan. There you go. Good job.
There we go. I knew I was going to have an issue there. Thank you, Robbie. Katie, thank you so much for inviting me to this, just to ask me to chat on your behalf. Yes, super congratulations to you on the book, and working with you on my book, Nonfiction Alchemy, was just a joy. So you wanted me to talk about the experience of finding you. I echo what Tim said. If you can find someone you trust to edit your books, and I'm a ghostwriter, so I'm writing books for other people. It's not just my books. Other people I send to you as well, hoping to send you more in the future. But it's just one of those things. It's so difficult to find people you trust to take that end of the process. I put a lot of work in as an author, as a ghostwriter, but I am not good at the details, proofreading, copy editing stage of things. I don't want to do that because I'm not good at it. Now I have someone that can do that. So 100% Katie, like, yeah, congrats on the book and the launch, and congrats on everything you do. I'm just a super big fan. And I love, I had other things I was going to say, but I want to focus on what Tim brought up in the idea of, if you write a good book, and you have someone edit it, it works for you and your business, because then people like Tim are reading my book and finding Katie through that. So there's connections there. But none of that's going to happen unless the book is really good. So you can do all you want marketing wise with the book. You can have the best launch in the world. You can work with the best launch team that you could possibly imagine. But if that book's content isn't great, or if you skipped on the editing stage, it's not going to go as well. It may go well at first, and you were talking about that a little bit before, Katie, but hey, maybe I could boost up in the Amazon bestseller ranks. Great, you can do all that. But what really matters at the end of the day, especially for nonfiction, is building that trust and building the relationships. And you really do need a great book to do that. So as far as self-editing goes and all of that, great book for that specifically. It's so necessary. It's a great bridge between, oh, I'm sick of working on my book, but I don't know how else to work on it myself. And maybe I'm not ready to hand it off to someone too. There's a gap there, and I think your book perfectly fills that. So good job picking the content for a book, and just wish you the best of luck with it.
I love this. This is awesome. I just went on Amazon, picked up your book, Jordan.
Oh,
So
cool.
this is how we all learn from each other. Thank you both Tim and Jordan for letting me know about that. So I'm going to do a quick photo. If you are able to have your camera on for a moment and would like to be in a group photo for Katie, you can turn your camera on now, and I'm going to just shift over here. I'm going to get a couple of shots in. If we were in person, I would tell you all to put your drinks down and get closer together, but we are not. We are on our Zoom calls, even driving. Fantastic. I love it. Please be careful, Chloe. So look at the camera, which should be across from you. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Thank you very much. Fantastic. No one blinked. Love that. All right, now I'm going to bring Katie back up, and I'm going to talk for a moment, Katie, about the importance of reviews. We brought them up a little bit earlier, but Jordan's got this great book. We want more people to know about that book. We want more people to know your book. All these books deserve a lot of attention. And as you mentioned, there could be this like push initially for sales, and you can spike, but you will immediately drop down if you don't have sustained sales. And one way to have sustained sales is to convert people who are browsing and considering your book against other books to actually buy your book. But the even more important part is they have to find your book. So I want to just tell everyone here what makes your book discoverable on Amazon. And it has to do with reviews, not ads. Ads are fine if you want to spend a lot of money, but in some categories, it's extremely expensive and will be a loss leader. And if you're making other money besides the book, which hopefully a lot of us nonfiction folks are, it could be worth it. But the reviews are something you actually have some control over. So the quantity of reviews for your book compared to other books in that topic, of those other keywords that people might find the books for, the quality of the reviews, so the 5 out of 5 stars versus the 2 out of 5 kind of stars, the recency of reviews, so not just having a ton of reviews as soon as the book came out, Katie, but having reviews ongoing. So I know you're not going to let up on the full 90 people who said yes to the nonfiction launch team. You're eventually going to get those reviews. Those reviews will help you. And then the last part of this is the percentage of verified purchase reviews. And the book is currently 99 cents. So now is a really good time to go and get the book. And I want to also just mention that writing a book review is not writing a book report. And I say that because sometimes I mention writing reviews and people get this like, and I'm like, they're having flashbacks to fourth grade and doing a book report and having to stand in front of a room. Like, no, it's not. Calm, calm. It's none of those things. I put in the chat 5 review prompts. Pick two, any 2 review prompts, and answer it in 2 or 3 sentences, and you will write a helpful review. Now, why do I say helpful review? I didn't say 5 star. I said helpful. So my wife is an avid romance reader, and there are people who are like, "Oh, too much," and then I don't. That wasn't for me. And she's like, "What's the book?" Right? So one person's yuck, someone else's yum. One person didn't like it, someone else might like it because it's helpful. So sharing a takeaway, a line that resonated with you, an action step you're going to be able to take. How would you describe it to a friend? These are all the ways you can easily write a couple of sentences. Do you have to read the book cover to cover? No. You have to read enough to be able to say, yes, this is actually a helpful book and this is who it would be helpful for. So I want to encourage you, if you have not yet written a review, it is not too late. It is time to go do it. In fact, let's see if we can get a few more reviews in between now and Friday. We're recording this on a Tuesday, and we have a few days. So go flip open the book, take the action step. And speaking of action steps, Katie, you and I talked at the very beginning of this process of designing your party about how people can stay in touch with you. And we realized you already had a really great way for people to do that. So if you have the voice for it, share with us a little bit about what that would look like, and I can jump in if need be.
I'm trying to find that part. I'm sorry.
Sure. I could just let them know this. Can I reveal the secret of how they're going to stay in touch with you? Sure, fine. So, if you are on Substack and you currently subscribe, can you write a little word like yes in chat? I was curious how many of you are aware of the incredible resources that are available to you. Okay. So Angie gets it, Tim gets it, Joe. Okay. So there's an entire world of great resources, and Katie is among them. Katie has a Substack account called Shining Beacon, and Shining Beacon has a newsletter, and you can sign up for a weekly or a monthly recurring newsletter. You have information in there for fiction and nonfiction, and she has a way of rotating the topics and making it easy for you to research and find what you're looking for. So you're not only getting that current newsletter, but you're getting access to an incredible archive. Katie, am I nailing this? Am I helping? Yeah. Okay, so what would you like to add?
You're good. I don't need notes to talk about my newsletter. I know about it a lot. I didn't realize that was the part we were on. I was like,
Okay, fair enough.
wait,
Go
what
for
part
it.
are we on? Sorry. Along with the sickness comes brain fog. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Yes, I have a split, excuse me, I have a split audience, which marketers hate. They're like, have one audience, but I just can't because I like helping fiction authors, I like helping nonfiction authors, and I like helping editors. So, and I don't want to I don't know, I just want to have one newsletter. So, but because I'm very organized and very type A, everything is labeled. So it helps to go like, okay, this is for the editors, this part's not for me. Okay, whatever. So read what, it's just like my book, Your Choose Your Adventure. My newsletters are too. It's like read what applies to you, ignore what doesn't. But in my newsletter, like I said, he said that you can just subscribe monthly or you can subscribe weekly. The monthly ones are very long because it's all 4 weeks in one. But hey, you signed up for that long. But the week ones, I always have a featured link of the week, no, not wink of the link, a featured link of the week that is from other industry professionals because there's so much goodness out there that doesn't just come from me. I love to share what they share, and then I always had to try this because the teacher in me is always about the how. We read articles all the time, right? We go and we attend conferences and we're like, rah, 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 I'm going to do this. This is so exciting. I'm pumped up. I read this article. I learned so much, but we don't always actually apply it. So in my newsletters, I then add the application, like try this, do this now, apply this now. And then I add my own additional tips to the topic. So you're learning from others, you're learning from me, you're getting a teacher voice, apply this on the featured link. And then the other stuff rotates. Like twice a month, I'll have a Heart and Hustle where like it's a personal story about how I'm putting my whole soul into my business and what you can learn from that as both an editor and what you can learn from that as an author. Because I just think it's important to connect on that human level that we're all like in this together. If I was feeling better, I'd probably jump up and do the dance from High School Musical. We're all in this together. Yes, I taught 8th grade at the time that movie came out, so I have the entire dance memorized. I could do it all. But anyway, we're all in this together, and I feel like that's part of what my newsletter is trying to do is like, let's help you. And then I like to feature resources, some from me, some from other editors. I always like to feature their stuff. Robbie, I featured your community a time or two. Because I just think, there's so much out there that people don't know is out there. So I like to bring their attention. So my newsletter's like, here's upcoming opportunities that are like, they're going to go away. Like recently, Erin did a webinar. Erin's a book marketer, fantabulous book marketer. She recently did a webinar, and those are like going to go away. So I like to feature those like, hey, these are upcoming. Get your booty in action. These are going to go away. And then I also feature the evergreen stuff every now and again through my newsletters.
I mean, it's a lot of content and it's well organized, and you'll get what you need and you'll pass on stuff you don't, or you might decide to pass it to a friend, something you don't need, someone else might need, and you'll become a resource rich member of your network who can direct people to good information about what's coming up. All you have to do is type the word Substack in the chat, which I've already seen a couple people do, and Katie will reach out to you with the link. There is a free and a paid option. One of the benefits of the paid option, Katie, you might want to mention a little bit about this, is you have these opportunities for people to connect with you over Zoom. So would you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the paid comes with an Ask Me Anything meeting that I have quarterly, and I rotate different topics. But for a while, I'm actually going to make them free in celebration of this book launch. And it's going to be Ask Me Anything about editing. And we're going to just like any author who's currently like stuck on a self-editing concept can work it out with me. Like let's take that passage you're struggling with and work it out with me. And if you're not currently self-editing, you can learn as I walk them through that process, or you can add in and help them too. Like, oh, here's how I changed that. I haven't announced it yet, but that's going to be what I'm going to do for a little while. But when I'm not doing that, I have my quarterly Ask Me Anything meetings on a specific topic. And people come, and if I don't get any live questions, I come prepared with 3 questions that I hear a lot. I answer them, I film it, and then everyone gets the paid people get a copy of that recording. They also get a bunch of my resources that are paid. They get them for free for being a paid member. I have a lot of free resources, but I also have a lot of paid resources that I offer. And so for editors, like they can get my trackers for free. Authors can get my author management tracker for free that I just built while I was doing my launch. It helped me do my launch. Now I'm like, now I can help you. So the site lists everything that is the difference between free and paid.
That's awesome. Here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna pull up the prize wheel, and after this, we're gonna go to some questions. So if you do have a question for Katie, this would be a good time to write it in chat. And I saw a question earlier about your paperback. It is coming. So for those who are waiting on the paperback version, it is coming. But let's spin this 3 times. And in fact, the 3 winners are going to get a copy of the paperback as soon as it is available. So aren't they lucky? April Rust. Woohoo! All right, April.
I'm glad she won because she was one that was wanting my version.
Nice. How awesome is that? It was between 2 speakers there. Pat, congratulations. All right, I'm gonna just drop that in the chat. And the last one. This is amazing. Right back around. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. All right, fantastic. And everyone else, of course, can reach out and find out the details of when that's available. Katie, there was just a couple of questions I knew have come up as you and I were planning for this, and what kind of speaking? Because I feel like there's different ways you show up in the world. So just briefly, can you share with us what kind of organizations might invite you come in to speak, and what are you bringing to them as a presenter?
So I'm usually an amazing presenter, guys. This voice is not normal. um, earlier you were saying how it's hard for people to praise themselves. I know what I'm good at and I know what I suck at. And I will be straight up honest, like I'm bad at this. But one thing I'm good at is public speaking. I've been good at it since I was like 5. um, I really I'm at my best when I'm in front of a crowd. So I get really energized. And so I'm constantly looking for opportunities to speak on podcasts, to teach at conferences. This is what fuels me. My teacher heart, like, loves this. I love to just be able to be in front of people. And I learn from them and they learn from me. And the energy is just so great in the room. Um, so I have a spot on my website for speaking engagements. I also have my press kit up there. Um, I'm always down for a good conversation where we teach others. But what I'm very good about is everything I teach is actionable. I never just give like theory or like good ideas. I'm always like, this is how you can apply it now. Um, and then I'm also pretty entertaining when I speak live. That's what I've been told. I was voted class clown. It's a thing. I'm not, I wish I could be more funny when I'm like one-on-one or in social media or in writing, but it really only comes out when I'm teaching in front of a crowd. So the best version of myself comes out then. But yes, I do love teaching and I do a lot of webinars
I
for
put
free.
information in the chat for the places you mentioned on your website for presenting and also the press kit, so people who have ideas can send them to you or comment in the chat. But briefly, could you share? I mean, when I was first learning about the editing process for my first book 10 years ago, I discovered that the word editor did not mean one thing. So could you share the kind of editing you're doing and so people could better understand like where your services come in?
Yes, actually, someone gave this book 1 star. And the reason why they did is they said, I thought it was going to be self editing and teach me how to edit for grammar and punctuation. Instead, they focused on things that aren't even editing, like characters and plot. And I'm like, honey, child, those are editing. I think a lot of people think editors just like come in with their red pen and like fix your commas. And that is just not it. There are a lot of levels of editing. And that unfortunately editors can't call it the same thing. It's really dumb. Like we value precision of language and yet we cannot be precise in our own terminology. So unfortunately their editors use different terms, so I like to call them levels. There's level 1 editing, which is like the big picture editing. And this breaks out into 2 different levels. At one level, you have like the big picture, but instead of giving comments in the manuscript, they just write an editorial letter of like, here's your strengths and weaknesses for the high picture, big level. So it'd be like character and story for fiction, and for nonfiction, be your content, your organization. They can either write just an editorial letter that gives you feedback, and that's cheaper, or they can do a full development edit where they make changes to the manuscript, they make comments along the side, and they give you that editorial letter that addresses the bigger, higher content. And I work as a developmental editor. Then there's copy editing. I also work as a copy editor. My copy editing includes line editing. Some editors separate that. I do not. To me, it's the words and sentence level. True copy editing is just fixing grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And then some people call line editing like the stylistic changes, but there are many editors out there that just lump it all together and call it copy editing, which is what I do. And so my copy editing will fix your grammar, your punctuation, and spelling, sure, but it'll also, if we're talking about fiction, it will work on showing instead of telling and getting a closer narrative distance and having more character interiority and all those things that make the writing more pleasurable to read, as well as like better word choice and sentence fluency. And then, so that's kind of like the stylistic editing. And when Kat earlier was talking about voice is so important, but a lot of authors don't know what their voice is. And they think that when an editor like elevates the quality of their writing, they think they change their voice. But the fact that you started every sentence off with a subject is not your voice. It's just weak writing. So we're going to go in there and kind of vary the sentence beginnings. So we work on sentence fluency, word choice, and writing craft. All things that go into the actual writing, which is, your show, not tell, and all that. So that's copy editing. The proofreading is very, very last. And traditionally, proofreading happened on page proofs, which is why it was called proofreading. And it's actually the only term that everyone can agree on and call it proofreading. But the indie author world came out, and now reading often happens on the Word document, even before page proofs. But this is like the final cleanup. They look for mistakes that the editor missed, because editors are going to miss things. They find the remaining mistakes. And if they're doing it after page design, they also look for design mistakes, because design mistakes happen as well.
There's like just that, the fact that you can guide somebody through the nuances of the different types of editors, I think is a lesson there, that this is why we hire professionals and why we need to learn from them. What is it like to work with you? You talked about being kind of funny and irreverent when you're presenting, but what are some of the qualities people call out when they're working with you one-on-one?
Yeah, I'm not funny when people work with me one on one. Sorry, you don't get my humor. Um, but I'm very systematic in process, and miscommunication is an anxiety trigger for me. So I err on the over communication side. So some people might get like, oh, our emails are long. But I try to organize it so you can pick out what you need to read and ignore what you don't. But I don't know what you don't know. And the publishing world is a learning curve. And I don't want you to feel confused or frustrated. There's already enough going into editing. There's already big feelings going into editing. Like, oh my gosh, they had so much feedback for me. My story's horrible, which doesn't mean that, but authors are going to think that. There's so much vulnerability that goes into editing that I don't also want there to be any confusion or any frustration on the communication level. So I'm super clear, and I'm very good at hand holding and walking them through. And some authors don't need that, so just ignore that part of the emails. But I'm very systematic, and I walk them through the whole process. And because I'm a teacher at heart, I give them resources for what comes after editing. And I try to cheer them on after editing and help them with the marketing. I'm not a marketer, but I will recommend people, and I will recommend some strategies that I've heard that work. So I'm a full resource center. The only thing I do is the editing. I don't do anything else, but I do provide resources for all the other stages. And I do make sure they understand the other stages, and they're welcome to ask me questions about the other stages. So I kind of like to be that teacher mentor for them throughout the whole thing.
You and I are cut from the same cloth. I love that about you. I really do. So a couple last things as we wrap up the Q&A, and I'll keep an eye out to see if anything else comes into chat. You do the one-on-one, which we've talked about, but do you have any upcoming webinars or courses?
So I'm working on turning my self-editing essentials for nonfiction into a course, because the EFA is interested in that. They already have one for fiction, but they don't have one for nonfiction. But I do have how to make your nonfiction book more reader friendly. That is a webinar I'm going to be giving at a business writing summit next month, and that will be available for purchase on my website. I already have two for fiction authors, two webinars for fiction craft writers on my website. But my goal is to take every single topic in my books and make a webinar on that topic. So eventually I'll have webinars on every single topic, so that we can deep dive into, one topic at a time. And that way you can just be like, okay, if everyone learns different modalities. I learn better from reading. I actually don't learn very well from webinars at all. I have ChatGPT listen to the webinar and then give me notes, because that's how I learn from them. But for those who learn better through videos and through webinars, I will break my book, and every single topic will be in a webinar.
So for folks who are just discovering you, either at this event, watching the replay, or because someone's being a referral from someone here, is sending them to your Substack, send them to your website, which I just put in, which is beaconpointservices.org. What's the next best place to send somebody who wants to learn more about you?
So if they're looking for resources, my resource library, you can see what I have available, what other people have available. But my Substack newsletter is the best way to kind of find out everything that I have to offer. But, you can also just explore my website. I put everything on there. Everything's on my website. So I try to be as helpful as I can.
Fantastic. So we're going to wrap up the formal part of the program here. Thank you all for staying as long as you did. If you want to hang out with the author, for those of us who are here live, this is an extra benefit. Pretend we are stacking all the books up and stacking all the chairs up behind the scenes. But we're going to take off these spotlights and then see if anyone here has something they would like to share or congratulations or ask a question. And a quick thank you again to the Jordan, Tim, and Kat who joined us to share their thoughts. So I see a few folks that are here still in the room. Does anyone have anything? Just give a wave to the camera. If you're off camera and you unmute, I'll assume that means you want to be called upon, and I will call upon you. So does anyone have anything they want to share with Katie before we officially wrap up and release you back into the world? Oh, Victoria.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did write it in the chat, but I just have to tell you, and I tell everyone this, you're in author groups, they say, oh, the editing part, it's horrible because all the red marks are there that they're seeing. And I always, I mean, of course, the first time that Katie did it, of course, I didn't really understand what was happening, but I was just amazed how she took my book and made it so much better. And so I welcome everything that she says. It's like, yes, I agree. And now she's done 5 of my books, children's books. And again, so I'm writing another one now, and I'm, not, it's a Christmas book, so I'm, not there yet, but I can't wait. I mean, I like it, but I can't wait for her to see it, because once she gets her hands on it, it does. It changes slightly, but it's still me. And it's just so much better. So Katie, thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Victoria. Brilliant. Anybody else have anything they wanted to share? Oh, Kat.
Yeah, I have a question for Katie. Katie, since you are so good at speaking publicly and also doing podcasts and podcast tours, that's starting to become my new MO. And I am not like you. I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world do I do? So do you ever work with people on that like you do your editing? Do you ever share, and do you ever coach, or do you ever spend some time, share imparting your wisdom on the podcast and the public speaking?
Kat, I wish I could teach public speaking. I think that'd be a fantabulous topic to teach. And I don't mean this in any bragging way. We're all born with things. This was just something I naturally could do. I never went through the struggle. Writing and editing, I went through the struggle, which is why I feel like I can teach it. It wasn't naturally good at by any means. But I can actually teach some things. I have helped people prepare for job interviews. And even though that's not public speaking, but I've helped them learn how to put their thoughts together in a way that is articulate and flows. So yes, I agree with Robbie to check out Toastmasters. But I would not be surprised at all if I opened up that as a service. I'm kind of a multi-passionate person, and there's so much I want to do. But so once I get my editing business where I want it to be, my next focus actually is public speaking for myself and for others. So I have no doubt that service will be coming. But in the meantime, feel free to say, hey, Katie, let's go over some things, because I might not be the best teacher of it since it was a natural thing, but I can definitely give solid feedback on how you're doing.
That's great. That's excellent. Anybody else have anything they want to comment on, share? Give you a moment.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations on those books. I thought they were both great, and I learned a lot, especially from the fiction one, because I'm mostly editing non-fiction. And the point about author voice, I was talking to someone about this earlier today, and it's a fine line. You want to improve the text, but you don't want to change the voice. So it's a really important point.
I agree. And I don't know if anyone saw the comment I made in the chat. I'm actually very, very passionate about this voice topic because it's a huge topic that people talk about. But I think a lot of the time they don't even know what voice is when they talk about it. Because I've seen both editors and authors say that an editor was destroying their voice over things that weren't actually voice. Um, Sometimes if you touch the text at all, it's all of a sudden you destroyed my voice. Um, and that's just not true. You have to know what voice is to be able to understand that. And this comes from even editors. I've had even editors look at my editing and be like, "You totally changed your voice." I'm like, "Did I? Did I really?" Because what voice was in there? But what was there is just writing that could be strengthened, like starting every sentence off with the subject is not their voice. I started off with the subject when I'm just drafting, and then I go in and revise it. You know what I mean? So I think that it's so important, and authors hear how important that is, but they don't learn what it means. So sometimes when they get back feedback from an editor and they're like, "You touched my words, therefore you touched my voice." So I'm very passionate about talking about what truly is voice because real voice should not be touched. And I think authors get scared that the editor's going to touch their voice because they hear how important that is and they don't know what it means. You know what I mean? They think every change is voice. So I think it's very important to share with authors. Once you have your voice, you'll know it, and that is important. Don't touch that. Don't touch their unique word choice, their unique way of presenting, but definitely help them elevate the quality of writing because no one's first draft is great. You know, leave their voice alone, but help them improve their writing.
It's so good. This whole thing has been so informative. Katie, thank you for making it through to the end with your voice. Speaking of voice, I'm so glad that you're able to do this. For all those who are watching who stayed all the way to the end, kudos to you. You're learning an extra few things here. And for those of you here live with us, thank you for sticking around. Really do appreciate it. It's always such a pump up moment for the author, whether it's a virtual or in person. Kickoff, and then everyone, in person, there's like that sort of downtime as people are packing up, but on Zoom you just like hang up and it's like very jarring. So this is part of the aftercare for the author, so thank you for being part of the aftercare for the author as we like let her come down a little bit. So we'll head you all out back to whatever your days were like. Thanks for spending time with us, and Katie, stick around for just one moment as we say goodbye to these folks. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Katie.